Hi, I'm John Waters, Managing Director at Abercorn International Search. Welcome to the April edition of our new podcast, Inspiring Careers. Our guest today is a senior technical leader with one of the world's most exciting and innovative software vendor, ServiceNow. I've had the pleasure of getting to know him both personally and professionally over the last 6 years as we were fortunate enough to help him with his current role. And like yours truly, he resides in God's country on the south coast of New South Wales. A gentleman who I enjoy catching up with both personally and professionally, as he is polite with a great sense of humour. He's also one of those great people who I always learn something new every time we talk. Jason Douglas, welcome to Inspiring Careers. Now, as we discussed, we are both lucky enough to live down on the south coast of New South Wales. We've had train strikes, etc., but you get in okay this morning?
I did, and I absolutely love living down the coast. I did a sea change from the city, 2006. So I've been down there a while. I can commute door to door an hour and a half, and I can get some work done on the train. And yes, this morning's commute was fine. Good.
That's excellent. In fact, we will talk about the current role with the post-COVID era in terms of hybrid working, etc. But let's take you back to when it all started. You went to uni in Wollongong?
I did go to uni in Wollongong. In terms of where it all started, my interest in IT, it goes a lot earlier than that.
Well, I'm here all day, so let's run. Go ahead.
It goes right back to year 5. And little 11-year-old me. My dad was a school teacher, and he had to take computer training for the kids at school, and he brought a computer home. And it was basically just a keyboard. It was a little TRS-80. It didn't really do much. I had to get an external cassette player to plug into it, and I had to plug it into the TV screen at home.
Yes.
And there was, I think, 2 very rudimentary games with it. And so we got a book on coding. And it was actually a case of a coding book where you had to write the code in yourself. So painstakingly, I'm typing in all these lines of
Now, excuse my ignorance
code.
Because I'm not a techo, but what languages are we talking
it was in
about
basic,
for our audience?
Yeah, basic, which was kind of the precursor to Visual Basic.
Yes.
So tediously typing in to watch a pixelated clown jump up and down. It didn't really do very much, but a sense of satisfaction from writing that code. That was my first code.
Yes.
And I think Dad saw a bit of an interest there that I had. The following year, I got an Apple IIe. I got a proper computer, and that was a Christmas present. I was the first in my group to get anything like that. I was very lucky, very appreciative, and then I could get games. I remember playing Larry Bird basketball. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? So I became a little bit of a gamer when I was 12 or 13 years old. And just started getting a real interest in IT, in computers. And then during high school, we had a chance to do some IT learning. It's mostly done as part of maths.
Yes.
But you do things like Turtle. People will be familiar with Turtle, pen up, pen down, draw things, using a movement. And I remember in year 6 at school, actually, Mr. Thomas, my year 6 teacher, would reward those who finished their work earlier on time with computer time. So we had a couple of they were micro Bs, I think, clones sitting around the edges of the room, and those who finished their work early could go and play games on those. So I would always try to get my work done early so I could have a bit of a stint on the games. So that was where it started, and then going into high school, I chose computer science as an elective in year 11 because I made a decision then that's probably where I was going to go.
Yes.
So that or engineering, and I decided computers, and I did a computer science degree at Wollongong Uni. And it was difficult, and I got out of it. So it's actually one of my highlights to actually finish that and then get into the IT world.
Now, it's interesting because obviously as a headhunter of many years, I have a great respect for the University of Wollongong and the University of Western Sydney. I would suggest that at that stage, that uni would have been one of the emerging universities. It wouldn't have been as high profile
as
it is now.
Very much an emerging university. And the computer science degree that I did was only the second time that it was offered, year that it was offered. It was Bachelor of Maths in Computing 2 years earlier. And I think the world has changed a lot in IT, but back then everyone was a programmer. That was the kind of thought process. So I came out of my course, I could program in 12 languages I don't feel like I had a lot of business acumen or sort of knowledge of the industry beyond being able to code. And guess what? After 6 months of doing coding at my first job, I actually made a decision I didn't want to be a coder.
Yeah.
But, you live and learn. And it was actually through a graduate program at the first employer that I had, TNT, that I actually learnt that. I spent 6 months as a code hacker, and then I got a chance to work in mid-range in systems.
Yeah.
And I actually really liked that. And I'd done a little bit of that at uni, and I was on a placement program, and I really appreciative of TNT for that placement program because I got a bit of a feel for the different parts of the IT department. And I stayed in that for 10 years. I worked in mid-range, in Unix in particular, as a systems administrator for 10 years.
Yeah. No, that's interesting because I think I've said to you previously, and I've said to lots of people, not that I know everything, but I've always felt that some of the greatest pre-sales people that we've been lucky enough to help with their careers are guys and ladies that have great end user experience. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would agree with it because you're close to the coalface.
Yes.
You understand the challenges that the department is facing, the employees are facing, the external users to the department are facing, rather than just coming purely from a tech leaning. If you're just working in sort of a sales or a hardware software type perspective, you're really coming from that technical lens. So yeah, to work on the customer side is a big thing. And what we find at ServiceNow is a lot of people join us from the customer side.
Yes.
Or from the partner side, working at customers.
Yeah. You did have a bit of a stint in the UK. Was that good in terms of getting to see the outside world, etc.?
Yes, it was great actually. I spent 6 months working for an insurance company in the UK. I actually had visions on working in London, but funny enough, this was actually in West Sussex. So I was actually heading out of London every day. I was living in London. But a really nice group of people I work with. I'm still in contact with a couple of the guys that were in that team. It was excellent. Great for my education because we were running a couple of really core mid-range systems, and I was actually there for Y2K, so that was
Isn't it amazing, by the way? I mean, we're probably embarrassing ourselves because some of the audience are a bit younger. But
probably don't know what Y2K is.
Well, the only thing is there was such a hype about it, we all thought the world was going to come to an end,
Absolutely.
and it actually didn't.
Well, I can remember sitting there on New Year's Eve on the edge of my seat so obviously we're in London, we're a bit behind the rest of the earlier parts of the world. The first few countries faced their cut over to midnight, and we were a little bit nervy that maybe people had missed things. It went without a blip. We had to do a lot of patching of our systems to get there.
Did you?
Okay. It was a real problem that there was hard-coded 1999 instances in code. So there was a lot of prep work that went into it, but it went off without a hitch. It wasn't the big deal that everyone was worried about.
Now, did you come back and then join IBM? You've got such a stable work history. Give me a rundown. How did that come about? Yeah,
so 2000 I came back. The industry was it was booming. That was right in the middle of the tech boom. And I came back and I thought, what I haven't done now is work in the whole sort of consulting area. IBM was really doing a lot of things in that, working with customers, improving their outcomes. And I took a role there initially in mid-range. And so I spent some time working as a Unix administrator. But then I got into pre-sales.
Yes.
And so
Curious, was that a case of somebody coming to you and saying, hey, we need you in pre-sales because you've got such a nice manner about you?
There was a bit of an encouragement to do that. But it was still using all my infrastructure skills because, going back to what I was saying before about the 10 years I spent as a mid-range guy, I was mucking around with servers and storage and a bit of networking equipment. And then being able to actually work on the design side of those, I was able to bring all those hands-on skills into that. So I did that for quite a while. Then I started working on bids and doing real pre-sales work, so big, large responses to tenders.
Yes.
Which was really interesting. And a lot of it was government work, and I found that very interesting.
That's both sort of federal and state, where you might have been going down to Canberra, because IBM, to be fair to them, still have a huge presence in Canberra.
They do, and I did do a lot of trips to Canberra. I felt like it was home away from home.
Yeah.
Back in those days.
Yeah. Accenture after that?
Yes, so I spent 17 years at IBM.
Yes.
One thing about IBM, it's such a big organisation.
You still look young, by the way.
Young at heart. Within those 17 years, I had 5 or 6 different roles, and you could change from a GTS position, global technology services position, into a software group position. It felt like going to a different company. So I did spend a lot of time there. And then, 2017, I went to Accenture and was an architect in financial services, because I'd done a lot of work at IBM working in that sector. So in the tech consulting part of Accenture, I was working with tier 1 and 2 banking insurance customers on projects. Got to work on some really cool NPP stuff when it was just emerging, the new payments platform, which is part of everyday life now. Everyone expects their money transfers to be instantaneous. It wasn't the way, pre-NPP days. So some really good projects I got to work on there, and that's about when we met, you and I.
That is exactly right, when I discreetly approached you about an opportunity. Let me ask you this, what did you learn in Accenture? That's important.
I think it's a very collaborative and teamwork-oriented company, and one thing I really enjoyed doing at my role there was, as a senior manager at the organisation, I was mentoring a lot of the juniors, and I think Accenture does that really well. It brings in graduates, interns, and trains them up, has them assigned to strong mentors that can encourage their career development. So I had, I think it was 3 like analyst, consultant level people that I was mentoring.
Yes.
And it was really good because it was part technical mentoring, but also part just learning the ropes, working in the business
I'm
world.
interested in that, and in fact, I will throw a question in before your ServiceNow experience, because I'm interested in you being mentored. But let me ask you this: do they make that formal? Just for our audience, I'm curious as to, when do people get time to get mentored in these organizations? Is it a time slot every month, or is it just informal? How does that work?
I think it works differently for different people. And it is a challenge, as you point out, because you do have your day job. So you still have to fit this in with your 9 to 5 role for both the mentee and the mentor. I think, as I said, it works differently for different people. What worked well for me was to clear some time in our calendars. It might be time that works for everyone. So maybe it's Friday. Maybe you do 2 hours on a Friday where you sit down with your mentee and you say, right, what's been working well for you? What do you need help with? A proper feedback loop. So you can always come back to me when there's something that you're concerned about or something you're interested in learning more about. But let's dedicate this time each week to sit down and check off some things. And they were very supportive of that, in the sense that there were some checklists of the kind of things that we should be doing as mentors. And that really helped me with my current role. As I moved to ServiceNow in more recent times, I've been there 6 years now, the mentoring skills that I acquired at Accenture were really helpful.
Yeah, no, I'm going to explore that, because the funny thing is, when you look at Accenture, if you like, that was pre-COVID, so everybody's in the office.
Yes.
Is it not easier to get everybody together from a mentoring perspective if everybody's together?
Yeah, I mean, you could still mentor over Zoom and Teams, but I think it's one of those things where even just grabbing a coffee with your mentee is something that you want to do face to face. So I think mentoring works very well if you can allocate some time to be present and be one-on-one. But it can work remotely. And during COVID, you're right, everyone had to make it work. It was a very interesting time for everybody. Things changed. We were very reliant on collaboration tools, and we just got it done. I tell an interesting story about my next door neighbour. Actually, he's not in tech. He's a linesman, and so he's out in the field every day. So when COVID happened, he basically was told by his boss that they had to make it work somehow remotely. In an industry that didn't usually work remotely, and he actually loved it. They gave him the tools that he needed, and he sort of said to me, "I understand how you do this now," because I'd been working from home, pretty much going back to the IBM days, where I could, probably about 2006. So I started having not an assigned desk to myself; it was drop-down desks. So I could come in and work at a drop-down desk, or I could work remotely. So we're very lucky in IT that we've been able to do that. But then during COVID, other industries caught up. They had to make it work, and you'll find that a lot of people really enjoyed that time of being able to get their work-life balance in order.
Yes, no, that's good. So what's the current model at ServiceNow? And I do say that in the light that some of these companies are changing, if you like, where they want people more office focused? How many days a week would you come in at the
typically
minute?
I'm in 2 days a week.
Yes.
It's not necessarily mandated, but I think it works well for us because you're always part of a team.
Yes.
You're very rarely working in total isolation. So even just catching up with your team is a good thing to do in the office. So alongside my my immediate team, account executive, etc., we will try to line up the same days. And then we'll be able to use a whiteboard to work and things like that are hard to do remotely. Even though there are collaboration tools that allow that, such as Miro, I don't think anything beats being in a room and scribbling on a board.
But also on that, I mean, at the end of the day, I still think you have a better chance of winning a deal if you're in front of a client. So do you get the chance to get out and see the clients as well?
Yeah, so exactly. So if I'm coming up 2 days in the week, I will try to typically not just spend time in the office, but I'll go out and see clients. So here in Sydney, or if I'm traveling interstate, I will try to make sure I've lined up customer visits as part of the trip. Yeah, for sure.
Tell me about the company in terms of how it's evolved since you've been there and simply why you enjoy working there.
Yes, okay. So so a little bit about ServiceNow, effectively a workflow automation company.
Yes.
Traditionally thought of as an IT ticketing type solution going back sort of 10 years.
ITSM, yeah.
Yeah,
even
ITSM,
I know that.
So
yeah,
ITIL alignment,
yeah.
but we are so much more than that. And that's constantly a challenge for us to make sure that the customers understand that we can do so much more than just your IT ticketing across employee workflows, customer and industry workflows, and also the whole app development side and extending the applications that are out of the box, so what we call creator workflows. In terms of evolution, the big area at the moment, of course, is AI, and just everything is AI, and even the AI ecosystem has been evolving. So we're now talking about something called agentic AI or AI agents. And so these are autonomous agents that take away a lot of the work that has historically been done by your IT service desk or your employee service desk. Organizations often have more than one of those service desks. But you can automate that through basically agents that are effectively autonomous programs, if you like, that are doing things. They identify patterns in data and they're able to take that next corrective action. You can always interrupt those. There will always be a human element required. For example, approving a change record is not something you necessarily just do in every situation. You still need to have some human input. But just being able to do a lot of mundane tasks that you can automate saves organizations a lot of manpower and potentially some cost savings as well. So that's a big evolution, because even just in the last few years, we've seen the evolution from traditional, what I'll call traditional AI, which is identifying patterns and predicting an outcome, which is basically machine learning, through to generative AI, which was 2024's big term and 2023's big term, and it's still a big issue, a big thing that we use to solve customer problems. And generative AI is all about taking that next step, so being able to create code or create text because of all the learnings from the previous data that you've got, the training data or data in the environment, using large language models. But agentic AI is where the industry is going. So that's the big place, the whole autonomous.
So let me ask you this as a non-technical person. I mean, everybody's talking AI. There's lots and lots of noise about it. How does ServiceNow therefore get a clear message out there to retain that strong relationship that they already have with their clients?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think it's a case of constantly reminding customers that automation works for them, and there's a big evolution in automation. So what we saw as automation 3 or 4 years ago was basically self-service and conversational chatbots, if you like, to where we are now, where we're looking at autonomous solutions that can just fix things in the background. So constantly educating customers on what they could do and the benefits of those, the improved outcomes from those. What else would I say that we do in that space? There's a lot of really good analysts in this area. So the analysts are writing a lot of good papers about this, about the improvements from AI. And it's not just doom and gloom from AI. It's not just people losing their jobs. It's about people in repetitive jobs, being able to do something that maybe is a higher order thinking for them, and we're automating those more mundane tasks of work.
Well, ultimately, the world is an evolving place. I mean, my young lad is a professional gamer, so if we had known what a professional gamer was 30 years ago, you were on the verge of being a professional gamer from what you said about the early 80s, having
just
your
in that
computer.
period where I was like getting into IT, I was 12, 13, 14. No, I didn't really take that further. I didn't become a big gamer, and I worked with plenty of guys that were. They're the ones that came to the office bleary-eyed because they were playing.
Not getting a lot of sleep. That's before the internet as well. So let me ask you this, because your company has grown, I'm going to say exponentially over the last 5-6 years, and I will give him a plug because I've known him for 20 years. Barry Dietrich's a good lad, and he's a great leader. Is there a good culture in there?
There is a great culture there. Really collaborative. I think I'd have to say it was the most collaborative workplace I've had, and I've been working in the industry for 30 years. Those who picked up the dates earlier in this session, 1995 I finished uni, so this is my 30th year.
Well, you're
industry.
A bit younger than me, so you're going great. Okay.
Yeah. So it's been a long time, and a lot of different roles at different organisations. I think the modern day IT vendor is a very collaborative workspace. They understand that there's many hands involved in success, and everyone's equal. That's a big thing for our team. And we've been successful, which certainly helps.
Yes.
When you come to work and you have success as a team, it makes you want to get up and go to work the next day.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I would ask you, and I'm curious, the ServiceNow ecosystem is growing, continues to grow. You've got the big four, etc. You've got the big Indian SIs. What's the nature of your job? Do you tend to work with both partners and clients? Just give our audience a bit of a rundown on the breakdown of that. Hey.
Yeah, okay. So I'm a solution consultant, and there's a few flavors of solution consultant. I'm the flavor that is an account-based solution consultant. So I've got an account territory, and mine's in financial services. And so I have a group of customers in that space across banking, insurance, super and wealth.
Yes.
And so my role is, it is a pre-sales role, but of course there's a big component of actually helping the customer. And I'm really strong for that.
Yes.
Because I'm seen by our customers as the client advisor on the platform.
Yes.
They will come to me if there's queries they have, if there's things they want to hear about on the platform. So I typically are taking update sessions, release sessions. We've actually got a release coming out next week, which is the next one in our list, which is Yokohama. So it's part pre-sales, but part post-sales.
Yes.
That's my day-to-day. I'm typically working with the customers, what we call platform team. So our customers will have a ServiceNow team, typically an admin, a developer, maybe someone that's overseeing the team. So I'm usually working with those teams, but I'm also working with some other parts of the businesses too. So architecture, and even some of the BUs. So risk is a big area that we work with because of our risk portfolio, our strong portfolio in that space. And to your point, yes, partners are a really big part of my job.
You started with young Matt Nethaway, didn't you? That was a partner role.
Yes, that was a partner SC role.
Yes.
So when I said different flavors of SC, there's another flavor which is working purely with partners and making sure they've got the tools to do good work at customers. So that was an enjoyable role as well. And after 2 years of doing that, I moved across into an account-based role.
Yes.
So we have a true three-way partnership at our customers. It'll be customer, ServiceNow, and partner. The partner is very much doing a lot of the design and implementation work, and I'm working with them to guide them through that process.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's good. Now, listen, we talked about mentoring a couple of times, and I will give you a plug in the years that I've known you. You're a very polite and very genteel man, and you're very generous of your time. Talk to me about mentors for you. Who? I mean, it could be at school, it could be at uni. Who's influenced you in your career in a positive way, by the way?
Oh, sure. I might give a slightly strange answer to this actually, because I'm going back in the archives.
You're very welcome to. Yeah.
So one of the first mentors, I might have actually touched on him because I talked about doing computer science at school.
Yes.
And the fact that it was pretty much maths teachers that took the computer science subjects like Turtle that I talked about before. But I did have a really good teacher called Mr. Heap.
Is he really called Mr. Heap?
Neville Heap. I've seen Neville probably 10 years ago.
Yes.
I grew up in southwest Sydney, so he could still be teaching out that way. He really inspired me to pursue a career in this because I had some interest in it. But he made the subjects really fun at school, and so we did some really nice things that I enjoyed. And he started an interest there for sure. In parallel, I was inspired by my Uncle Greg, who my mum's youngest brother, who was the first person I knew that worked in tech. And so he had a job in tech.
I wonder what the definition of tech was in the early to mid 80s.
Yeah, so he did one of those. He did one of those Control Data Institute courses.
Oh yes,
yeah, they were big in late 80s, early
and
90s.
Also, I think from memory, there was another one called the Computer Power Training Institute. Yes,
so those kind of, and a lot of people got into IT through those kind of courses. And he had a really good job in banking sector. And I remember in my third year of uni, I actually did a profile on him for one of my subjects. You had to do some research into a big customer in IT, or using IT. So I did my Uncle Greg's organisation, and thick manuals to go through. It was a really good research exercise. So he definitely inspired me. And then when I started working, when I was talking before about working in mid-range. At my first job at TNT, I had a guy in the team who knew everything about Unix. He was a Bible on that topic, and I just used him like a sponge. Really good guy. I would just ask him questions. I'd bounce ideas off him. I'd sat next to him every day, and he was just fantastic for me in terms of a mentor in the early days of my IT career. There's been many more since, managers that I've really enjoyed working with, peers that I've got lots of time for. I work with some really good salespeople in my current role. But there were three early mentors in my career.
Oh, no, that's excellent. And listen, I know we're not going to say that you're in a tech leadership role where you manage 100 people, but you are a tech leader, right? So say, for example, when you are mentoring people, what type of leader do you want to be, both in the technical side and in terms of the people that you're helping, if you like?
Sure. So absolutely. I've never been a line manager. I had chances. There were sliding doors moments in my career where I could have gone down that path.
Well, hey, there's still plenty of time, remember? Yeah.
That's right. But I always pursued the tech angle. And so the leadership for me was always tech leadership. So, at one stage at IBM, I had 5 Unix administrators working for me.
Yes.
And to the point of how did I want to lead that team? Well, I really wanted to be hands-on. I wanted to be part of the team. I didn't want to be looking at it from afar. So, for example, if we had an on-call roster, I was in that on-call roster.
Yes.
If we were doing day-to-day systems administration duties, I was doing them just like the other 5 guys in the team. So I really wanted to lead through actions. I think that was really important. So I've maintained that later in my working life, that the leadership, I've always tried to be an open book. So typically now, I touched on the fact that my customers will come to me with questions on the platform. I like to think that I try to help them wherever I can. And if I don't know the answer, and there is lots of times in IT where you don't know the answer, it's good to know someone who does know the answer. And
Well, just on that, I will give you a plug because we talk a lot. And you did tell me that, you do put a shift in at the weekend as well when you're preparing to help clients. That shows me that you're completely committed. So everybody out there at ServiceNow who's watching, you've got a very good employee. Let me ask you this. You've been involved in recruitment, you've managed people, etc. What do you look for in a potential employee?
Good question. And I have been on the interview panels for different roles and for technical roles, for sales leadership roles. I've done a few different things there. What am I looking for? I start with enthusiasm. I want to get a feel for whether the person is enthusiastic about the role. Are they just doing a tick and flick exercise and applying for lots of different jobs? Or are they really passionate about this role that they've seen? It could have been on LinkedIn. It could have been through an agency. So enthusiasm is important. And then, of course, you're looking for skills. You're looking, does this person have skills that match what you're looking for, particularly if it's a technical role that you're recruiting for? And does this person have the kind of technical nous that you need? But then the third and possibly the most important is, will that person fit in? Will that person fit into the team, but also the broader culture as well? It takes many different types or many different people to create a village, and it's the same about IT. You've got lots of different personalities, and different personalities suit different roles, and so you've got to think about whether that person that's coming in is going to be the best fit for that team.
Just for yourself, by the way, I mean, you've got a very stable work history, you've got a great academic background. What do you do for you in terms of your own personal development? And I'm talking actually both technical, but also for your own soft skills in terms of commercial leadership. Are you a regular contributor, if you like, to your own career? Have you not done as well as you could do? What's your thoughts on that? Are you good at looking after your own development, if you like?
Yes, and so I guess in my role as a solution consultant, it is largely a technical role. So I've got to stay across the tech, both the tech that ServiceNow produces, but also the industry tech. And so, we talked about AI before. There is a lot of material out there on AI. There's a lot of training you can do. I think key for me is I touched on the analysts before. So the analysts put really good information out there. So Forbes, Gartner, Forrester, to name a few. Those guys are doing a lot of research in the industry. They write really good papers, and I find that really useful. I read a lot of their material. I'm a big reader of tech. I do a lot of prep to understand the technology and be able to show it then, because it really is, with our customers, they really want to see it. They don't want to just hear it. They don't want to just see PowerPoint slides. They want to see it. So we have to educate ourselves to make sure that we can show how tech works and the benefits from it. So I do a lot of prep, a lot of reading to keep myself at the top of my game. It's challenging because there's lots of information out there.
Yes.
Everyone's heard the stats about, I think it's 90% of the data in the world is created in the last 2 years. So there's just information coming at you every day. The industry's changing, the tech is changing, and it's, I love the challenge of it.
Well, it's interesting because you strike me as a guy who genuinely enjoys his world that he lives in. You enjoy your family life, you enjoy your technology. What trends, therefore, I know everybody's mentioned AI, what are you following in the IT game, and is there anything you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, so AI is exciting, but there's plenty of other things in the industry that are exciting. I think one of the big things for us is that customers are looking to do more for less. So they want to get more out of their existing environments, investments, I should say, and therefore things like automation are key. So not necessarily the AI side of automation, but just automation of things like, if we think of software and hardware assets, the life cycle of those, knowing when they're going to become end of life, having a plan in place to prepare for that. These are just effectively they're workflows in ServiceNow. These are automation workflows that allow you to improve the environment and do more with what you have. So I think that's absolutely key, a big area.
Now, just on that then, if you're doing so much reading, do you feel when you're talking to clients about new technology that you're able to add value because of all the different content, if you like, that you're going to come across as very knowledgeable, surely, yeah?
I hope so.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting role because I'm not a back-end developer as such. I'm more of a sort of an architect on the system.
Yes.
So I think it's a unique area, and I've seen this across my whole IT journey, that architecture role, it's a little bit of business, a little bit of business acumen, matching with the tech. It's not just being able to just talk the technology for a full hour in a meeting. It's being able to relate that back to customers and relating those to outcomes. I think that's one of the unique areas that we play in as solution consultants or pre-sales architects. There's a lot of different names for that role within organizations. But we have we're that connection between the business and the technology teams.
Yeah, I think what I've always enjoyed about talking to you, by the way, is you're always looking for tangibility. You're always looking for an outcome that actually gives the client some sort of tangible result. A lot of the technical lads can talk until they're blue in the face about technology, but you would not send them down the street for a loaf of bread, unfortunately. I've always found yourself very enjoyable to talk to you because you're very customer focused. You seem to be more worried about the customers than you are about you guys. So let me allow you to give yourself a spruik. Anything you're particularly proud of in your career up to this point? And there might be 100 things.
Yes, well, there probably is a lot of things that I could cover, but I think one of them is probably being able to mentor younger people in the industry. Having been in the industry for 30 years, there is plenty of people I work with that are 5 years or less. We work well together, the old and the new, and being able to mentor those people is really important for me. And I'm still doing that. I'm still providing mentorship to some of my peers. I touched on the mentor program at Accenture, and that was one of the highlights I had there. So for me, that's definitely been one of the best things I've done in this industry, being able to give back to the industry through helping others and mentoring others.
So therefore, I'm going to jump to my last question and make it my second last question, because my last question, when I'm always very glib, is what advice would you give for young people starting off in our industry? Your young lad starting off, he's at uni, etc. What advice would you give young people starting off in the IT industry?
Yes, and it's probably something I didn't do the best job of during my course. Don't be worried about asking up. Put your hand up, ask questions if you didn't understand something. When you're doing your course, don't be a shrinking violet at the back, just thinking you're going to catch up, because it's hard to at times. So always ask questions. Ask questions of your lecturers, your peers, and then take every opportunity that comes along as well. I'm finding that there's so many opportunities for IT students today. They can go into so many different areas. It's not just programming. There's so many different roles in IT. So take them all on. Take all the opportunities on that you get. If there's an opportunity to do part-time work somewhere, an internship somewhere, take it on. And listen to those seniors that are around you, the guys like me actually, that are going to be sitting next to you that have lived experience in IT. Learn from them. There's a few there. So ask up.
And I'm gonna hit everybody with an anecdote. Do I not have a vague recollection of us having a coffee about 2 years ago, and you were all excited because your young lad had got a job in a pizza place on a Friday night? That was his first job from memory, wasn't it?
Gosh, that is such a good memory. He's had a few jobs since then.
But the point is, at least he's making an effort at uni to get himself out and about, get a few jobs, get a few life experience. I just remember talking to you when we were, just for our audience, we catch up at Diggy's in North Wollongong, and we are creating a South Coast IT community. But no, I remember talking to you one Friday morning, and you were all excited because he was actually getting his first job. I think you were driving him to the shop as well, and not We've
come a long way. He's now going into we just started this week his third year of university and his law degree. So he's had a few part-time jobs along the way. He's now in a position where his next part-time job is probably going to be in the legal profession.
Oh, no, that's good. That's good.
And to a more broader point around the young people of today, they've got so many opportunities. They can study overseas. They can. You often hear 20-somethings that have had more than one career already. They've studied something and gone back and studied again. It's a big wide world out there. So grab the opportunities as they come along is one of my big mantras.
Now listen, you're in very good nick. Let me ask you this. What do you do for you away from work? I mean, are you a sportsman? Do you run marathons?
I'm a sports nut. I don't run marathons. I'll leave that to my brother who does do that. He's a lot fitter than I am. But I'm a sports nut, both playing and watching. Probably more watching than playing, but I do some playing. So I still play soccer. I play over 45s old man soccer. Love that. I've been doing that for 14, 15 years. Still play golf. Still run, and actually even 2 weeks ago rejoined a gym for the first time in 7 years.
You strike me as a gentleman who's got the metabolism of a freak. You never carry any weight.
I think I'm a bit lucky like that.
Do you have to go to gyms as well? Hey?
Oh, I think I'm lucky, but as you sort of hit 50, you do have to look at your weight. So and you just your general health and fitness. So I am trying to do things that are good for me to get that work-life balance right, because we've talked about work a lot today, but it's not all about work. It really isn't. You've got to have that balance. I've got two older kids now, and I still love spending time with the kids and my wife. And that's some of the highlights of the week, really. You have highlights at work and you have highlights at home.
As a guy who watched Liverpool against PSG with the kids yesterday morning and got their donuts and coffee for them up at the shop in Gerringong, I can certainly conclude that is right. Which football team or which rugby league team do you support? We may as well give them a plug.
Rugby league is a big passion of mine as a watcher. I didn't really have the physique to play much of. I would have been broken in half. I did play a little bit of rugby league at school, but no, I support South Sydney, the Rabbitohs, the mighty Rabbitohs. They're playing tonight, actually. They're round one game. So I go to a fair few games with the kids.
Yes.
I've got the kids into it. I guess they didn't have much choice, did they? They always got to support what dad supported. And my mum's side of the family, all big Souths Souths
okay.
fans.
Yeah.
So that was a rite of
Isn't
passage.
it funny? I can safely say that I know nothing about rugby league because I've been following the Tigers for 30 years.
Right, yeah. Well, this could be their year.
Well, let's hope so.
They've signed some good players. They got Luai at 6. This could be a big season for them. A lot of people are tipping them to make the 8.
Well,
So,
we'll believe that when we see it. We were talking to Jake earlier, our young, wonderful man here, about your time in the UK. Do you still watch the soccer?
I still love the Premier League. I don't watch as much of it as I'd like. I used to go to Selhurst Park when I lived in London. It was then
For those who
Wimbledon.
don't know, that's Crystal Palace's ground.
Yeah, so I took Crystal Palace on as the team.
In fact,
when
I think
kind
Wimbledon
of folded.
shared the ground with them at that
They
stage,
did.
didn't they?
They
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
Yep, and so I do go for Palace. They're not great. Yeah, I like watching them on TV, and I'd like to get back to the UK and go there again because it was quite a nice time. I lived over there for 6 months in 99, 2000. That Y2K era that I was talking about before.
Is that when you guys were all making sort of 200 quid an hour with the facade that the world was going to end on contracts?
Maybe the people working
yeah?
in London were earning that. I was working in West Sussex.
Okay.
And I loved the time that I spent there. Actually, I was saying before that I kept in contact with at least 2 of the guys I worked with there in '99.
Yeah. No, I've very much enjoyed talking to you. I know we did a bit of prep. Is there anything else that we need to cover? Anything that you wanted to highlight about your career, the company, etc.?
I don't think so.
There may not be, by the way, but on that basis, I thought that was an excellent discussion. You always handle yourself incredibly well. And
Thanks,
as I
John.
said in our intro, and I'm going to conclude here, one of the nicest gentlemen I've had the pleasure of meeting in the IT game in Australia, Jason Douglas. I always learn from him. I can see why clients enjoy engaging with him. I think the lads at ServiceNow appreciate that they're very lucky to have him in the team. My name is John Waters. I'm Managing Director at Abercorn International Search. Thank you for watching Inspiring Careers. As they would say in the movies, that is a wrap, and we will talk to you very soon. Thank you.